Hey Rick, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Megan. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining me today. It's
always.
the seventh week of that we've been doing this little
Mm-hmm.
update for people, and it's the seventh week that we've been really locked down on the pandemic, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
been an intriguing observation of everything, science and human nature and our fears and beliefs, and it just keeps moving along. But today we're here specifically to talk about the number one economic engine for the United States, and that
Mm-hmm.
is the housing market.
Yep.
People don't realize that when they buy a house or build a house or sell a house, how many people are employed and impacted by just one transaction. It's quite a few. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're here to kind of just talk about what's happening right now and what we can expect probably in the next, couple of weeks, or we'll just get out our crystal ball and do the best we can.
You got it. Sounds good.
So when we spoke yesterday, we spoke a little bit about deconstructing, constructing some of the headlines that are out there. Because it's been 6 or 7 weeks, we now have some hard data, some facts in how this pandemic has affected the housing market. So let's review. I've got these headlines right here. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
share my screen with everyone. So let's see here. First, we wanted to talk about this CARES Act. And we did talk about forbearance a few weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago, but let's just touch bases on it again.
Okay.
Now, I have not had any of my clients call me to say that they cannot make their housing payment. What do they do? I haven't gotten any of those calls yet. I know that you have, because that's really
Mm-hmm.
your deal. But I stay in really close contact with my clients, so usually if they have a problem with something, I hear about it, like plumbing or roofs, but I
Sure.
haven't heard anything.
Mm-hmm.
But my advice to them, if they did, would be the same as we gave a few weeks ago. I mean, what has anything changed for you, and can you review that advice that we talked about?
Yeah. Thanks, Megan. That's a good point. So let's be clear that if someone's having a true hardship, use the tools that are available right now. And that's forbearance.
Hmm.
Um, don't shy away from that if you really need it, but recognize as well that forbearance is not forgiveness. That
Hmm.
money at some point has to be paid back, but but again, if you cannot make that mortgage payment, take advantage of that opportunity. There's a lot of talk though, which I don't necessarily agree with respect to what happens after that forbearance period. I mean, right now the understanding is that after that 6 months of forbearance, and it can be extended beyond 6 months, but initially it is 6 months, that those funds, wherever the payments were not made, are due and payable. And if they don't get paid, that potentially puts the home buyer or the homeowner in some sort of default. Um, I don't see that to be the case, frankly. And I've said many times before that our housing market is way too important for this economy to let the housing market fail.
Hmm.
And I don't see any path where the feds are going to stand back and say, yeah, let these millions of homeowners who had a short-term loss of income due to a pandemic, let them lose their homes over that. I don't
Right.
see that path. I don't see a path to that. I think the feds will step in and create some sort of a back end relief program that will make those borrowers whole again and not damage them long term.
Right.
So, so I do not see a situation where forbearance is going to wreak havoc on the housing market and create a lot of foreclosures and all the risks that go with that. That's just not going to happen. And the
No,
other reason is because, frankly, homeowners have equity.
that's
You know,
right. Hmm.
they're not tapped out like they were 12 years ago in the last recession. They have equity. And by the way, they qualified for those mortgages. They
That's
weren't
right.
stated income, stated asset, nonsense loans. So the homeowners that are out there right now are very stable overall. And this is a short-term situation. And I do think after the next 3 to 6 months, we'll be on the other side of this curve and we'll be healthy with respect to those homeowners.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. And I agree with you. If someone, is looking to buy right now and they think in 6 months there's going to be a lot of foreclosures, they are sadly mistaken, or not sadly mistaken, because like you said,
Hmm.
I don't see people not being able to rearrange this debt some way so that they can keep their house, because I think that some sort of I'm just going to pull this out of my ear here, but I
Hmm.
think like most people have 30% or more equity. I mean, that's huge. That's,
I'd say that's fair.
yeah,
Hmm. If
I
not
read
more.
that. I think it
Hmm.
was 30, but it was a really high number. But
It is.
yeah, I don't see a foreclosure market coming. And just a side note, I've been a realtor since 1998. I know you've been in the business much longer than that. We won't talk about it, but um, but during the last
Yeah.
foreclosure crisis, I sold about 250 bank repos, and every one of those people I talked to, and I looked at their situation and how they got into that situation, and the majority of them had no equity. They'd taken out all of their equity. They had done something else with it, paid off, I don't know, credit cards, bought a motorhome, bought a second home out of state, this sort of thing. That was the majority of the situation. Or they
Right.
never walked in with any equity, so they had no skin in the game, and so they
Hmm.
said sayonara to their house. And at
Correct.
that point, they bought a house for 500,000. Now you could rebuy it for 300,000. I mean, that was bananas. So I just don't see I just don't see anything ending up in that department there.
No, no, I totally agree with that, Megan. And we talked about this other thing before as well, that during that crisis, 12 years ago, during the days of the stated income, stated asset types of loans, on the other side of that curve, Fannie Mae did a survey and they recognized, once the damage was done, that 35% of the home buyers who purchased a home during that 3 or 4 year period never qualified to make that mortgage payment.
That's right.
And so they had oftentimes some very small down payments, 5% down, sometimes zero down payments. And
I
so to your
remember
point,
the
yeah, so,
103% loans were,
right,
yeah, I mean, it's bananas. You could get cash out and close escrow.
right, yeah. So to your point, that's right. So you think about that, they didn't qualify for the mortgage, they had no skin in the game, they had no equity right out of the gate. And so it's easier for those types of buyers the homeowners to walk away and say, "Yep, there's no equity,
Right.
I'm done." Right. So the homeowners now have lots of equity. They qualified for the mortgage. They weren't stated income, stated asset. They're real buyers that with real income. And so I think we are, and mark my word on this, we are not going to see a repeat of 2007, 2008. Not even close, because
Yeah.
it's a different type of dynamic and for different reasons. And so I think right now, for anyone, to your point earlier, that their mentality is, well, let me just wait and see how this thing plays out. They can do that at the risk of paying a much higher mortgage rate down the road and really likely a higher housing price as well.
Right.
Because at these historic low interest rates, this is a short-term opportunity for buyers to buy now and get a very, very low house payment that they cannot, and trust me on this, they will not get that same payment down the road by waiting. It will cost them more.
They said that, even I was looking at this other article talking about debunking or reconstructing or deconstructing the headlines, and it was talking about the interest rates. And I know that last week that you pre-approved a buyer for me up to $1
Hmm.
million VA loan
Hmm.
at 3%. That was
Hmm.
fixed, right?
I know, it's
And
great.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's
30-year
bananas.
fixed.
I mean,
Yeah,
that money is so inexpensive right now. It's just
it is.
mind-boggling. You were just talking about watching new home builders and what they're doing, and what was the story that you told me?
Yeah, Tri Point Homes, as we know, is a very large builder in the Inland Empire, and they really didn't start as a company until the recession, the last recession. They were a brand new home builder in those days, so they have
Mhm.
learned from the history of these markets. And I read that they just recently took out a $500 a $500 million line of credit
Mhm.
to put on the sidelines
Yeah.
for future home building and buying land and building homes, because they recognize that the cost of this money, they cannot duplicate that down the road.
Right.
And so for now, it makes sense to put that money, park it on the sidelines at a super low cost, which gives them the capital and the ability to seize opportunities as they become available. And I think the same mentality really should prevail for home buyers. Take advantage of these low interest rates while they're available, and make the move now, because history will tell us that on the other side of this curve, it won't be 3% rates. It won't be the housing values that we have now. It's going to cost them more. So the cost of waiting is much more expensive.
Yeah,
And the home builders recognize that by making that move right now.
right. I agree. And I've seen home buyer activity tick up. I'll joke around and say 400%, because I had some active buyers before this happened, and then they kind of like decided to sit on the sideline, and one or two of them were furloughed. So I got some new buyers last week, a couple of them. And so I was out showing houses this weekend, and it was a really nice house. I mean, just really a close to a 10 for what you could get in that price range. And the realtor had only sold one other house before and said that he had like 16 offers on that other house. And it was kind of hoping for, so many offers again on this house. And he had a lot of showings, because I asked him, well, how many showings do you have set up for this weekend? He had 16 showings, Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. And so, so I think we're going to go ahead and write an offer on it, but I think that he's probably going to have still multiple offers, but it's not going to go bananas. So I think he's going to have 2 or 3 offers, but not, 7, 8, 9, 10 offers. And so, and then there was another house I showed this weekend. I love this kind of stuff. And, you always have to deconstruct things to figure out where the story sort of started. There's a house in Anaheim, and it is so inexpensive. I mean, you cannot get a single family detached house for this price. And I'm not going to say what price it is, because I don't want to give it away. And it had been on and off the market because there were tenants in there, and the tenants didn't want to show during COVID. And the tenants moved out May 1st, and so they put it back on the market. And it just looks like the whole house just looks like an afterthought. There's trash laying around, there's boxes, this sort of thing. And so the house has the appearance of having had sat there on the market for a long time, when in reality, there's a whole story about why it's been on and off the market and showing and not showing. And I think that I'm going to be able to snatch that house up at a really good price for my clients, because of a couple of things, because of the whole COVID thing and limited competition, and because of the story of that house. I think that we definitely have an advantage, and I love that kind of a market, so
Yeah, that's fantastic.
yeah, there's good opportunities out there.
There are.
There's less competition, interest rates are killer, and even the most conservative economist says that home prices will at least increase by a minimal of 2% this year. So I'm looking at the screen right here that says that in Southern California, the prices have increased 6.8% for, compared to last year. And of course, new sales and contracts. This is another headline you'll read, that sales are down 48%. Well, of course they are. We're on a pandemic. We're in lockdown.
Right.
But, 48%, I mean, wouldn't you expect it to even be more? But it's not. And I think this week they're talking about lifting some of the orders in California and opening up some retail and that sort of thing. So I think, this limited window of opportunity of less competition is probably, the end of it is on the horizon here. So I think it's still a good time to get into the market. And there's an increasing number of homes for sale, so there's still plenty to see,
Well, as we said before, that sellers that want to sell it right now are very serious sellers, and they're marketing their houses at the right price. That's why we're getting multiple offers, and buyers are really serious as well. And so it's really important as a home buyer to get pre-approved early in the game and be ready to go, because sellers are really looking for buyers that are ready to pull the trigger now.
Yeah, they won't
And
even show you the house unless
yeah,
you're approved. Like I'm going out for a buyer this week. I'm going to go preview a whole bunch of houses. I'm going to videotape a tour.
hmm
They don't live in the area, so I'm going to try to get through these houses for them and advise them. So for each one, I have to send in a PED form, and I have to send in the buyer's approval letter, even though the buyer's not even going to be with me. But the seller wants to know if you're in the house and you're doing business, that you're the real deal,
hmm for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the right way to do it right now. And I know that you're having a lot of success with your offers because you're very prepared going in the door. You know the market, the game plan, the dynamics, and how to sell that to the seller on these offers and get those offers accepted. And so that's a great strategy.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I appreciate your time today and your thoughts, and
Yeah, thanks, Megan.
we're going to keep
Appreciate
plugging
you.
along and
Yeah,
get some people in their houses before school starts. When the
that's the
school's
idea.
going to start, I'm not sure, but we'll get it done
Right.
for them.
We will. We're here.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Megan. Take care. See you
Thank
later.
you.